All right, here I am back with Benjamin Franklin. Sorry, my hairline and his hairline are almost the same. I thought I'd start working on the nose a little bit, and as I was thinking about how I was going to do it, I thought there was a couple of things I could do. Um, First of all, my original thought was to sculpt it out of foam, um, probably L200, so it'd be a little more dense than this. This is not quite the right shape, especially when you look at like the way I drew it originally. His nose is pretty straight, although in my mind it was kind of a cylinder. Um, I got to thinking about what I could use, and I thought maybe this. I have this um, foam. It's kind of like rope. It's like an inch around. It's like a dense foam, which might have worked, but it still was not quite as dense as I like. And then I got to thinking, like, one of the things that BJ used to do was sculpt noses out of plumber's epoxy. Now, I have plumber's epoxy right here, and I thought about just sculpting it from scratch, but it also would add a lot of weight to it, and it's a fairly simple shape. And then I got to thinking about PVC pipe, and so I got a piece of PVC pipe on the bandsaw, and I cut it at an angle, like so, and still straight at one end. But I got to thinking, if I just rounded off the front end of this PVC pipe, it would be basically the right shape. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do. To quote Chico Marx, that's what I'm going to do. Okay. What did I just do with that? Actually, this is almost the right. Well, let me get that rubbing alcohol. So one of the things that I like to do is, especially since I like to cut corners where I can and not cut corners where I don't want to. Um, if I can find something that's the right shape that's cheap, I'll just use that. Whether I make a pattern off of it or I just use it completely. So having PVC pipe that was almost the right shape was a great way to do it. One thing about it is I want to make sure this is completely dry before I get it anywhere near the fleece because it'll stain it. Just basically knead that into a light gray. It comes in. This is the same stuff as epoxy sculpt, or very similar to it. It's the same thing I used on Max's nose, but I'm going to use this inside fleece. So I'm just going to make a little plug for the bottom of this nose. I'm going to try to round it out at the bottom here. It doesn't have to be perfect. I don't have to sand it. Don't have to do anything. I just don't want any big bumps on it. And you have about 5 minutes to, hence the name 5 Minute Epoxy. Okay. I think that's pretty close. Okay. And actually, now that I think about it, while I'm doing that, I have another idea. have this box full of miscellaneous pieces of plastic. Let that dry. So there's this, which is interesting. This is the scoop off of like those. I think it's off of like the protein milk, and I have a couple of them actually. That's almost the right size. I think also that's what I'm looking for. But here we go. So this is the same as what's on C-3PO's finger. And obviously this is too big, but it's almost the right size. Huh. It almost works, but it's a little too big. Look at this. This is another piece of pipe. It's a little bit smaller diameter, but it's exact right size to that. Huh. I'm going to make one more nose. Make one more of these. So I just basically have a bandsaw over on the other side of the camera. That's what that was. So I just cut it at an angle here. But that's pretty close. It's pretty close to what I want. I'm just going to put a little bit of, I'm going to cut off this end. Actually, I have no idea what I'm doing here, by the way. Okay. So what I did is I made a little hook in there, and I'm just going to fill the rest of this with that plumber's epoxy. And that should keep it in place. These are knee pads, by the way. These are real plastic knee pads. So much of building this stuff is just problem solving. It makes me not upset, but I feel like a lot of people miss out because they think there's a right way and a wrong way to do stuff. Now, certainly there are wrong ways to do stuff, like using cardboard in your mouth plates or something like that. But there are so many different right ways to do everything. It's just what works. Who knows? Maybe this won't work either. And it's really only got to stand there long enough for me to put a fleece skin on it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stuff this down in here, kind of wrap it around. This is why you should never throw away anything. Just kidding. Okay. Okay, so that's that. Those are my two ideas for the nose. This is the little nose. This is the little nose I originally made as a mock-up. I think I might. You know what? I'm gonna put a little bit of super glue on there. I do not like this gel super glue. I've decided. Who knows? This may not even work. It's just about set up, which is good. The one thing about making noses, like especially these hard ones that don't have any give to them, is that you want to make sure that you don't make them too big. Like this one might be a little too big, because once you put the fabric on, it's going to be about 1/4 of an inch bigger. I think this guy's going to be the one I end up using, but we'll see, I guess. This stuff does generate heat while it's curing, which is kind of cool. I've gotten so much mileage out of those little dollar store tripods, which is what I'm using. That's a foot off of one of those tripods. That one's still wet. Okay. I think in the meantime, I'm going to see what eyes might work for this as well. I've got a bunch of different, like, these are, everybody always asks me about this. This is the eye form I make Mayberry's eyes out of. I sculpted this out of, or I made it out of this really dense foam, and then we vacuum form that, and then we use that as a vacuum form buck to kind of like these eyes. These ones right here. These other ones are a little too big, but yeah, I think that's going to be what I use. Where I get my bucks for these is I inherited a bunch of old crank anchor eyes, and they're actually pretty funny because they're all the stoner eyes, which I could never use on anything. But because they were all vacuum formed, I can put this plumber's epoxy in there. What I do is I put Neosporin in here. I put Neosporin inside the other vacuum form buck, and then fill it full of that plumber's epoxy, this stuff. And then once it cures, I can just pop out the plumber's epoxy, and then sand it and put that red putty on it, and end up with a nice smooth buck that I can then make vacuum form eyes off of. So I've done that with a few of them. This one I always think of, it looks like a vanilla wafer. It's kind of a shallow sphere. One. There's that. I don't want to get super glue on it. I thought that glue was dead because it's dry. This is just for placement. That'd be too thin. Oh, that actually looks pretty good. Well, I'm going to try that. Let's see how that works. So you want to make sure the stretch is going widthwise, I think is how you usually do it. Okay. Put my respirator on. I'm going to put on the glue over every part of this thing. Oops. I got glue on everything. Okay. Use my fingers. All right. Okay. I'm going to do it real lightly on here. In fact, I'm going to do it right. I thought I was going to do it right. Okay. I'm going to cut off a little piece of foam. Okay, because this is I don't want very much on this piece of fleece. And what I'm going to do, just going to kind of roll it on there. So I'm just cutting off the excess fur or fleece here. Okay. And then I'm going to run the. Oh. Okay, I'm going to take a needle and thread here, and I'm just going to cut off all the excess, and then I'm just going to do the ladder stitch right here to close this up. I've never made a nose like this before, by the way, and it seemed like the way to do it. So never be afraid to think outside the box when it comes to this sort of stuff. Okay. So now following that center line there. I think I'm just going to put this on. Where's all this hair coming from? Okay. That's the one thing about this synthetic hair is it gets everywhere. I know you can't see a darn thing, but I'm on a man on a mission here. Okay. All right. So I still haven't sewn this hair on yet, but I think that light is just too. Okay. So there's his nose. Now he's gonna have half masked eyes here. I can find his other eye. So half masked eyes. So have this. He'll have, of course, pupils, and he'll have eyebrows. Let me make some eyebrows for him real quick. These are not his final eyebrows. They're just kind of me figuring it out. These are way too thin eyebrows, but how did I manage that? Okay, I guess. I'll put some half-masked eyebrows on, eyelids on him at some point. I've been trying to think. I've been thinking, wondering if I want to use this fabric to make eyelids, give it a little bit of contrast. Let me see how that looks. Well, here's his ears too. There's one of his ears. Yeah, I'll have to figure that out. Well, anyway, I think I'm going to sew on this hair and then maybe finish up the eyes, and then I'll try and figure out how to put them on. Ordinarily, I'd sink a doll joint in here, but because I can't get to the inside of his head, I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do. I do know there's going to be a black line around his eye, and it's going to have a half lid. There may be a bag under it as well, but I haven't decided that yet. Guess we'll have to see. That. And he'll get a tongue. But yeah, I'm going to sew this on, and then I might be back later. I got to put his ears on too. What's his other ear? I want to have him. I want to be able to see like half of his ear under here. Like so. So I got to put skin on that, and I guess that's it for now. All right. I'll see you next time.